Here we go. Yes. Hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in. This is a little tutorial about how to read and how to write XML code. XML code is required for any Android app that you're using, and so I shall be telling you how this is done. And I will be explaining it starting on the very beginning of everything, and then telling you how to work your code, and then how to use your XML code in your actual code files, and in the end of this tutorial, your layout will always look the same on every screen that you're using. Okay, so let's just go through it. I'm using Microsoft Visual Studio and C# to write code in, but the XML files are the exact same in Java, so it doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna create a new project. Actually, I haven't sorted anything out. I'm just gonna go the way it's going. Okay, I just create an empty app. That's fine. Yeah, he's creating an app. I will not explain to you how to really code. This is just the XML files. This is just layouting. So what the fuck is that? Getting started. Fuck off. Yeah, our main activity, which is where we're gonna do exactly that. We're gonna set our content view for our main layout file, which is always under resources and then layout. If you put up a new file, just go to putting up a new file. And my computer is German because I'm German, which is also why my accent is very bad and my English is very bad. And just create a new layout file and then just reference it here. This goes by the name, so this one is called main, and if you would put up another layout, just go main1. Something that's always very helpful is to set the name of the main layout the same as the main activity. So usually I would call this main activity, and then of course rename this to main activity, so that it first of all knows that it exists because it's in the resource designer of our app, and then we can use it. Okay, let's just open that. Unfortunately, I do have a bit of a problem with the emulator of the code. You'll see that probably now. No, you're not. So right now it worked. It put up an empty layout, but sometimes the loader that you just saw continued to go through. So I might not be able to debug it, but you can believe me, what I'm saying is correct. I just can maybe not show it to you. I don't know. So I'm gonna drink something, and then we are going to start right away. Okay, so let's start off with the very basics. Before I'm gonna completely start, as I said, I'm German, so maybe my English is not perfect. Also, actually way too much. I'm not gonna edit the video, right? So there will be stretches where there's nothing happening. So I think, just sit with me, and in the end, you'll know what you want to know. And just take your time. It's important that you know what you're doing, because layout in the end is what makes the performance of your app. And if your layout is bad, or if there's too much layout inside, and it'll just be a complete mess. And especially you want your app to look the exact same on each and every screen of different phones. Like on the Samsung S4, and then on the S8, and then on a BlackBerry maybe. And this is important that you follow the way that I'm doing it. There's a lot of ways of doing it, but this way is one that works. That's very good in performance, and the way that I'm doing it will make your screen look the same on every device. So why not go with mine? There may be even more efficient ways, but I'm a semi-professional programmer, so I'm okay with that. And then we're gonna jump right into it. The first thing you gotta know is we're gonna write linear layout and sometimes frame layouts. I'm never using relative layouts, just because everything can be done with linear layouts and it's perfect. So let's forget about everything else. So another thing you gotta know, I'm gonna use some words such as child and parent or root layout. So that you know what that is, I'm gonna open my Explorer right here. Actually, I'm gonna open up that folder because I think I'll need it later. So what you're seeing here, basically, these are all folders that are inside another folder. For example, resources folder is containing these folders, and these folders containing these images. This folder here is a child of the resource folder that I'm in. If I'm going to click on the resources folder, which is a parent to a child that contains these children, these are called the children. While for the children, the resources folder is their parent. And then there's a root folder. The root folder is where it's all beginning on. This is up to definition already, but I would say the root folder in this case is my volume F. Volume F is where it starts. And from F we have, some folders, some more folders. These are all parents because they always have something inside of them, which are the children. Okay, so and this is the same for layout. Everything needs to be put inside a layout, and this layout sometimes is the child of another layout, which is the child of another layout, which then may be the child of a root layout. So this right here is where we're going to put everything into, and it's called our root layout. We can set the size of the root layout with these parameters, android.layoutWidth and .layoutHeight. We can set them to a value such as 0 dp or 10 dp. I'm going to talk about dp in a bit. Or we can set them to 3 attributes, while one, which is fill parent, is something we're not going to use at all anymore. I even think it's depreciated. So let's just skip this complete layout, constant. What we are gonna use a lot is wrap content and match parent. These are the two most important, and these are the two attributes that you can use always. Basically, what do they do? First of all, our layout, which I hope we can see in the designer now. I said wrap content, so yeah, it's fine. Everything that is the screen. The screen is basically our root layout, you could say that. And if you set your very first layout, which I'm gonna call the root layout from now on, to match its parent, it will match the entire screen. No matter what phone or device you're using, it could be a tablet, could be a phone, could be anything, it will match it. So it will completely fill the screen. This is very important because if you set our root layout to be match parent, everything you put inside of this layout here will take part of the screen depending on what position you send it to, but it will always fill the entire screen. Yeah, basically that's what is important about the width and the height. And every layout, since it's a rectangle, always have a height and a width, never a depth, because we're writing in the Android files are, of course, 2-dimensional, not 3-dimensional. Unless you would write a game, then you'd add another attribute, but this is just not the case for us. Okay, this very first line is something you can completely ignore. I don't even know exactly what it means. XML version 1.0 encoding UTF-8. This is just the way it's encoded. This is the version of the XML. It really doesn't matter at all. You're never going to use that again. It's just, and the beginning of every XML file is what you're going to find here. And then the root linear layout has this attribute to it. I'm not really sure what that means. This is just some way it looks. I don't care. It also doesn't matter to us. These two lines are really not important at all. I don't even know what they do. What is important are the next 3 lines. First of all, we have a linear layout that starts. Every layout starts at this little symbol. Wait, I'm actually gonna make this a little bigger. So, yeah, why didn't I do this in the first place? It doesn't matter. You can close a layout, and you see exactly how much it closes. It closes everything until this very point. A layout always ends on this slash and then the greater than sign. Right. It starts with a smaller than and it ends on greater than and a slash. This is the whole layout. That is the root layout. And if we want to put something inside of it, I'm going to show you how to do that. We can't have 2 root layouts in one layout file. There's only going to be one root file. So this is going to be that. Or can we? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm going to say we have a root layout, and we're going to put that to match parent and width and height, and we're fine. If we were, example, to put the root layout into height, the height of the root layout to wrap content, if we're going to set it to wrap content, the height doesn't exist yet. It exists only with this the things that we are going to put into it, which is the content, the children, and the size of the children will then determine the height of the layout. This is sometimes very important if you're programming something that's supposed to be dynamically adjusted to whatever is inside. For example, when you load down images of the internet into your app and then put it into a linear layout, and you put the layout to wrap content, it will always have the size of the content, which makes a lot of sense because some things are bigger, some images are smaller, and it will adjust to the size. Another thing we need to know right now is what that would mean. This, or for example this. So you can set a layout height to, or also the width, but goes for both the width and the height, to a constant, for example 10. You need to have an attribute to it, for example px, which is pixels, and then there's dp, which is, I think it's called density independent pixels. This you should never use, ever. I couldn't think of any situation where you would probably use this. So just forget that it even exists. It doesn't matter. These we are going to use from time to time because density independent pixels, while you would understand what a height of 10 pixels means, it means that the height is 10 pixels. But that, depending on the phone that you're using, a height of 10 pixels could be like, half a centimeter or a quarter of a centimeter. This depends on how many pixels the phone has in height. So the layout will be taller the less pixels the layout has in height, So never use that. Rather use that 10 dp, as I said, is density independent pixels, meaning that it doesn't really matter how many pixels there are, it scales by 10. There's a certain factor it scales by, I forgot about that, doesn't really matter, just play around. 10 basically means very little, and if you really want to see your layout, let's just go 500 dp, and then hopefully we'll be able to see it. Yeah, you see our layout. That's our root layout, almost filling up the entire screen. But on my, 500 dp on an S8, for example, would probably just fill half the screen, while it would fill something on an S4, which is an older phone, would fill as much as here. Way more than half of it. Almost, I would say, something like 7/8 or whatever. So DP isn't perfect either. It would work for little, tiny things. They're not so very important where they sit. My phone is ringing so much right now. It didn't ring before, but now of course it does. Once again, we're almost never going to use constants, even though if they're density independent. So we're going to go with match parent, meaning I'm hoping the designer will work. It will probably, and then you see our layout fits in width and in height. It goes for it fills the entire screen. By the way, I can't put it into full screen right now, or maybe I can. Is there some? Oh yeah, I think I've seen it. Black note header full screen. That would be the layout on full screen. Again, this depends on what you set into the manifest of your app. You could put that manifest into a full screen thing. You can do this, I think, under this window manager or something like that. Dot flags. Is it flags? Window flags, something like that. Window flags, add flags. It's something with flags, definitely, but it doesn't say that here. Or is it just full screen? I don't know. Maybe it's add view dot full screen. I don't know. But this is a way of putting an app into full screen, or you change the theme it's using. It doesn't say anything about the theme, but it can use a theme and it's manifest here. But if you say match parent, it always matches the parent, no matter if there's a title bar to it or not. Okay, so I think we've got the basics down right now. This is what is important. We have match parent, wrap content, and then we have maybe sometimes DP, but we're almost not going to use that. The next thing we have is the orientation. A layout always has two ways of orientating itself, which is, of course, horizontally and vertically. Vertical. It will also tell you what properties it has. Vertical, let's spell that correctly. If you're spelling anything incorrectly, it'll not render in the end. So it has to be spelled correctly, but I think you know this because I'm guessing you know how to code. Okay, so as I said, if we are putting the orientation to vertical, that means that for every child that we don't have yet, but we're going to put children in there, they will be aligned. The first one will be on top, and then the next one will be below that. That's what vertical means. You can put those into horizontal mode, meaning they will be next to one another. The first one will be on the left side. It'll all start on the left or on the top, and then either go down or go from left to right. So this is also very important for designing your layout. And there's only these two axes, either be horizontal or vertically. Okay, that's all we need to know for now. Let's just go with vertical because I think it's a good thing to have my layout start vertically and then do everything vertically. It's just the way I'm doing it. Okay, the next thing we gotta know is how to put a child into a linear layout. As I said, we're gonna use linear layouts because linear layouts have a very nice attribute which is called ANDROID. My phone is ringing right now, but I'm not answering to that. ANDROID layout.weights, and this is a property that doesn't exist in a relative layout, which is why we're using this kind of layout. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Yes. It's like that my phone is ringing right now, which is annoying me, but let's just get back to it. Okay, we gotta know how to put a child in there. And what kind of children do exist? There's a lot of things that can exist. We could probably put another layout into our layout. We could put an image button inside that layout, or we could actually, since this is annoying me a lot, I would probably need to cut that out. I'm gonna text my girlfriend that I'm doing a video. Call later, so that she's not worried, because she would immediately get worried. Okay, so yeah, we're back. So we could put a drawable in there, which is basically like a PNG file, an image. We could put a linear layout inside. We could put a scroll view inside there. We could put another frame layout inside of there. We could put virtually anything that exists: a scroll view, a recycler view, a view pager. Any elements such as a drop-down list, which would be a spinner, or a text view, of course. And you know what? I think we're gonna start with putting a text view inside of there. It's always the same process. Doesn't matter what you're gonna put in there, and it just depends on what you're gonna say you're gonna put in there. And this is always defined in the very first line or something. And it always looks like this. So what we could do right now is we could take our layout file. Let's format that a little bit so that you know what I'm doing. Delete all of that shit because we're never using that again. It'll give me an error and will say, that's what I meant, an XML element can only have one root layout. That's what I said earlier. So we can't put that outside of here. We would need to put that inside of somewhere. And since we only can have one root layout, it can only go into a root layout file, which is the linear layout. So how do we open up the linear layout? This is very simple. We have to remove this little slash. It'll say now it's not closed, hasn't been closed, it's German, and with that it will be closed. But since we need it open, we'll open it up, then put a layout inside of there, and then we need to close our linear layout to wrap this one here. And this basically works like that. We put up, this, and then it already knows what I'm doing. Basically this right here is closing this linear layout, which wraps this linear layout. If I would close this linear layout, it'll close everything that is inside of there as well, which is this linear layout. So this linear layout doesn't have a child, so it can be closed just like that. But the moment it gets a child, it needs to wrap that. And I could put so many linear layouts in here. It doesn't really matter, like 3 or 4 or 5, and they'll all be wrapped inside of this linear layout. Let's just remove all of that. And since linear layouts don't really have, actually, you know what? That's 2 linears. We just want to have one child in there. And to format this, what I'm doing is I'm going to the designer and then back to source, and it'll put this into some kind of neat formatting. This can have a bit of an issue because sometimes you just put in like empty spaces to know where you've been working on, because the layout files will get very long eventually, and it'll set this back. But you could probably disable this in the settings. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me right now. Okay. To really see what we're doing, we can always go Android, then is it called double point? I don't know. And then you get all the attributes that you have that you could put up right now. For now, let's just use Android.background and just put a color into that. A color can be used for a hash code. I don't know. Let's say 4444. I don't know what that does. And since that would not give it any information, we're just gonna do what we're almost never gonna do. Just put just for practicing purposes, put a size to it. And if I've done everything right, we should have a layout in there, that now has a size. This is our root layout here, and then there's another layout of a 50 by 50 site starting in the top left corner, which has this color, which is unfortunately an ugly gray. Let's see. I don't know about hex code. Does something like this exist? I don't know. Maybe not. Apparently, I think it did something, but it doesn't matter. If we were to put up another layout inside our root layout, which ends here, we're just going to put this underneath and give it another color, which is FFF, which is white. That much I know. And yeah, as you can see, now we have two layouts, both of the size of 50 dp. Inside our root layout, which is supposed to match parent, this is why it's matching everything, and then two linear layouts that have a color but nothing in them, so just a background color. If you were to put something in them, it will appear in front of that color. It's just a background. And yeah, and they're stacked on top of each other because the orientation is vertically. If I were to say the orientation is horizontal, horizontally of course, then there will be next to one another, always starting top to bottom. So this gets rendered first, and it's horizontal, so it's gonna sit in the upper left corner, and then the next one to the left of it. While we're on that, so you may now be wondering, why are they sitting in the top left corner? I really hope the rendering will continue to work here. That is due because we didn't set any gravity, right? Gravity, that's the word. So another very important attribute is ANDROID.gravity, which, as you can see, does only use constants such as bottom or center horizontal. Let's just go with center, and let's see what happens if we gravity something to center. And there we go. These now get rendered in the center. The center is right in between those. So one gets to the left, one gets to the right, because both are supposed to sit in the center, and now they do. It couldn't set the center to the left side of this layout. It has to set that so that both children are in the center, because we set the layout to be center. What also we could do is say center. Right? Is it center vertical? I don't know. Let's see if it does something. Yeah. And now they're centered in the vertical axis, which is on this axis, but not on the width, not on the horizontal axis. So you can say all of this, and to know what you can do, you saw that earlier. As soon as you go with a equal sign, it'll tell you what constants you can use. Let's just go with center, just because that looks nice. So center, and we only want one linear layout here. And now let's say we don't want that to be a linear layout. We actually want that to be text that is visible on our phone that we can use in our app later. So all you gotta do is change this to a text view. A text view is something that displays text. It'll automatically say now orientation doesn't exist anymore because you can't have an orientation in a text view. So yeah, that can go away. It does have a background, which I don't think we're going to use at all anymore, and it does have a width and a height, but what you should always do on a text view is set the width and the height to be wrap content. Unless, of course, you want to have the hitbox a little bigger, then you'd set this here. But this means basically that the text will be as big as the text is. Makes sense for now. Of course, if you want to have a bigger hitbox, you could say the width is supposed to be a little longer so that you can click on text views a little easier. So something that's very easy. By the way, it always starts with Android and then a double point. I don't know what the exact word for that is, but while on it and we're both supposed to learn something, why is it not doing anything? Of course, it's doing the updates now. It's not doing this at all in any other given moment, but now it's doing that. If you would please, so nice to start up things. Let's just go for that and then say Doppelpunkt, because I'm probably going to use this word a little longer. It says double point was actually, no, that's of a curve. So colon is what we want to say. That's a colon. So it's always, every layout thing starts with Android colon. Nothing goes without the Android thing except for what it is, which is a text real linear layout. So we're going to do Android colon and then very easy text, and then give it a text. For example, hello, my name is Julius, which is my name. And what the fuck did I just do? I just went to another desktop without wanting to do that. I actually meant to save. Yeah, I'm not going to save now. I'm just, used to saving. Yeah, if we're going to go back now, it says, hello, my name is Julius, in the middle of our root layout, and this is the size of it. If we were to say the size, like the width is a little longer, let's just go to match parent. This is interesting. So it'll now, damn it, I saved, but it does work. Okay, so I saved. I didn't mean to save. it's gonna match its parent. This is the parent, and this parent has a size of match parent too. So basically, this will have the width of the screen, and our width will now be match parent of our the size of our parent, which has the size of a screen. So, this is like top-down organization, and you see, this is the size of the hitbox now. So you may be wondering, why on earth did my text view now went to the left of it? The reason being, our layout for our text view is this in size, and this is in center, but the layout center of our text view isn't centered. We can set this attribute very easily with this Android : layout.gravity, which is now supposed to be center. This is a difference to that, because this defines, as you saw that, which is very important that you see that. Okay, unfortunately it didn't work. Yeah, I know. It's getting a little bit difficult now, because a text view itself does have a layout wrapped around it automatically. Which is why layout gravity didn't work. In this case, you're supposed to set gravity. This is some kind of an exception. It's unfortunate that we're doing this at the very beginning, but just set the gravity to center wherever you can, and then you'll end up having a hitbox that is like that big, and yeah, and the text view itself is now centered. Yeah, that's basically how easy that is. If you want to set some more attribute to it, let's say Android.text color, you're just gonna go, oh, that exists, so what does it want now? Let's just go with a hashtag, and I don't know, let's just go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 5 digits, and yeah, we changed the color, easy peasy. And since I hate the background, which is black, and black just looks stupid, let's just go Android.background and just go FFF, and that means our root layout is now white. No, it's not. What did I mess up? Oh, yeah, I forgot the hashtag. So hashtag, and then the code for that, and then there you go. Nice, that's it. If we were to debug this app now, right here, I could use an emulator, but they're so slow here, so I'm not gonna do that. It'll look just like that on any screen. The text view in the center, and these kind of colors, and yeah. One last thing, if you want to set the size of the text view, you go Android.text_size. No, .text size. Equal sign. Yep. Stop fucking things up. Equal sign up. And you're gonna say, you can say, I think 12 is default. You can go 15, but you gotta say SP. I don't know exactly how SP work, but somehow they always look the same. So this is 15 SP, and on every screen it'll look like that. You can go 25 SP, whatever you want. You can set the SP without having to do any calculations in here, because you can't set a text size to wrap content. I don't know. I don't think that will work. But it works like that, and it will almost look identical. I don't know exactly how they work, but they work. So that's for the text views. We're gonna go to something that's a lot more important right now. Let's say I'm gonna just copy that. We have a root layout which is matching everything. And actually, what I did was a little bit stupid. I'm gonna copy that and then put up another linear layout. No, actually, the way I did it before was a bit better, so remove that. So let's say we want to have 2 different linear layouts in our root layout. So we're gonna do that, remove that because it's just getting confused. Closing tag, can't forget the closing tag, otherwise it won't work. And finding a missing closing tag is gonna be a pain in the ass, so do that up front. We're gonna say, yeah, we want to have them stacked on vertically, so that's layout 1, and then there's layout 2, and layout 1 includes our text view. Damn it. Fuck. Okay. Text view, Android.text, not text alignment, text. Hello, I am a text view, and that's all we need. There's no such thing as that. Gravity center, so yeah, that's fine, I think. Yeah, that's good. And of course, it will tell you that it's not closed because I've opened this layout up and I never closed it. I need to close it. And there it is closed, everything's fine, and we're going to look at the designer, and there we go. So you might be wondering, I could look up the linear layouts. Why is there only one linear layout, and where's the other one? Where's the one I just said? Because this one is a content of the first linear layout, but the other one is missing. And the reason basically is that I'm saying to my first layout, match your parent. So there's no more space left for this linear layout. So it doesn't appear at all. Again, these are all part of the root layout. You can see that like that. I'm going to make this a little easier for you to understand. So these two linear layouts are within our root layout, which is that one, this one here, and the first linear layout includes a text view. Okay, so it doesn't have any space anymore because the first layout will match its parent in height, and then there's no more room in height because we're gonna set those vertically. The height is what matters, what defines the size. If I were to set this layout to 100 dp in height, the width can stay match parent because they don't override one another, they don't interfere. You will see that one linear layout and another linear layout, both in the size of 100, both in the center because a root layout says center. Yeah, but what, for example, would you do if you'd say, okay, I want my layout to always fill half of the screen? No matter how many layouts I have, if I have 3, I want them to divide themselves and fill up a third of the screen. So what you're going to do is very simple, actually. You're going to set the height to 0 dp. So it doesn't have a height anymore, meaning it doesn't exist anymore. You won't see the text view anymore because there's nothing there. There's this little dot which is supposed to be a layout, but they have no height, so they're not getting rendered really. And you're going to use something very important, and this is almost the most important thing in Android programming, and this is why I'm using linear layouts. I'm going to drink something, and then I'm going to tell you. We're going to use something called layout underscore weight. Let's put the weight to 50. This attribute goes also for that layout. There we go. And what you're going to see now is 2 layouts taking up half the screen. The first one containing a text view, the other one doesn't contain anything. Can I say it, my root layout, Android? Why does it gone anyway? Android.background. Just, that it looks a little better. Is that 6? That is 6. I'm checking, always checking, because if something is wrong, then you'll have a harder time finding it, especially if the layout files get longer. It's a little smaller so that we have a better view on things. So, and this is how the weights work. And I'm going to surprise you a little more. I'm going to just put another layout in there with also a weight of 50. The weights have nothing to do with, they don't add up to 100. They don't need to. Now each layout has a weight of 50, meaning they all are equally height, but they fill their parent with the height. They always fill it out, but they all have to be the same size. So it has to, divide it by 3. You could do 33 for each layout, just to have it in order, and then okay, I have 3 layouts, they have a height of 33, so they're gonna be like that. If they all have the same weight, they all fill up the exact same amount. If I were to set the first layout to 10, which means that the first layout has a height of 10, those have a height of 33. But there's no unit attached to it. 33%, not percent, but 33 units of what this would be as a main unit. If you'd say 33 plus 33 plus 10, which is 76. Right, so this is 76 units right now in height, and this gets 10 units, this gets 33, and this gets 33. And this is how you divide a screen. You'd say, okay, this is my header now, which will always be this height, and these will always take this much in height, no matter what screen you're taking. And the width will always be a fill parent. Okay, let's exchange something. Let's say we want to have a layout now set not vertically, but do the same thing, but in a horizontal line. So I'm going to click on the designer and nothing. It's kind of fucked. Nothing is there anymore. And the reason to that is very simple, but you gotta know that is because we set the width to match parent and the height to 0 dp. But we gotta exchange these now. Since we want our height to now fill the complete screen and our width to be set by the weight, we'll have to exchange those. So I'm gonna just do that real quick. There we go. I'm going to head back to the designer, and it worked. Does the same thing. And since our text view is still centered, it does, do that. Everything's working out very perfectly. Yeah, can I go back? Because I like to have things vertically till it says vertically. No, it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work, so we'll have to redo all that. Oh, god damn it. Bit annoying. And no, here. Yeah, you're supposed to match parent and you're supposed to go height. What did I say? 0 dp, of course. There we go. And we're back to normal. I think. Always check, because yeah, as you see, something didn't work out. And yeah, the reason, of course, is I forgot to set the last attribute vertical. And now everything makes sense and everything is perfectly aligned, and that should not work. What is going on? Okay, so we've got something didn't really work. Let's just see. The orientation is vertical. That is right. So meaning the width can be match parent and the height can be 0 to p, and the weight can be 10. Let's go here. Oh, let's see. I've done a mistake. Again, height is supposed to be 0 to p, and this is supposed to be match parent. Yeah, and because of width match parent, height 0 to p. And because one layout is fucked up, it will not work. But there it goes. So that's why you always check, because if you've got plenty and plenty of layouts, you'll eventually start having some issues. Okay, so we've done the very first part of that. How does stuff work in general? And now we're getting down to more serious stuff. I'm gonna just hold the video here and then do some, cutting, and then I'll return to right where we're at. Or I'm wondering if I'll just continue to record, because I'm not sure how my recording tool works, and this is a bit annoying. Actually, yeah, whatever. I can cut the video later. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Yeah, we want to find out now, how do we get graphics in there? Of course, what you could think now is set this to be an image view, and it would be an image view, and it will say I can't have a text and I can't have a gravity. But I do have a layout gravity, just to confuse you a little bit. Of course, an image doesn't have a text, because it doesn't have a text property. And you would be right, we could do that. But we need an imagery, we need a resource, something like a drawable. And it starts with this little button down here, which is Photoshop, which we are going to start up now. Because when you design an app, you have to meet certain parameters. And these are just as important as how the layouting works. We're going to set up a new file, and this file is already set to be perfect. It will have the width and the height and the resolution of something we call an XXX HDPI screen. So you need to basically copy that. A width of 1440 pixels, a height of 2560 pixels, and a resolution of 577 pixels per inch. Very important. And this resembles a perfect 16 by 9 XXX HDPE smartphone. XXX HDPE smartphones are basically very high resolution smartphones. I think the S7 or the S8 is the first XXX. The ones before are called XX, then the ones before are called X, and then we just have HDPI, then MDPI, and LDPI. I think something like that. So, and in order to design for all of these phones, we need to render our buttons 5 times if we have 5 drawable folders, depending on how many phones we support. I'm going to try to support all, which is basically covered by 5 phones. You basically have everything covered with 5 phones. You don't have tablets covered then, actually. You would need another folder for tablets, but that's why we start to design in the highest layout property that we have. If we wouldn't do that, we would need to scale the buttons up and they would start to get pixelated. So that's why you always start with this template. You can basically copy that. So what we're going to do now is very simple. We're just going to put up a button. Yeah, just, buttons can be round. Put up some round button. Yeah, it doesn't even need to be in the center. But let's say we would design our screen now. So I'm going to put that into the center. Which, damn it, I hope it'll snap to. And yeah, it does, actually. And damn it, that didn't work. And you snap to the width. Where's the width? Snap! Oh, that. I don't think it's not gonna snap, is it? Since I don't know where the width is. Width, where? I see the problem. I was being an idiot. There you go. Now we are back on. Now it's supposed to snap. Yeah, not to that. Remove. Retry. Snap to something, man. Okay, it doesn't snap. It doesn't matter. Then fuck that. That's what you would usually do, but right now I'm just too lazy to crack that. Now let's just say no stroke and then be of some not so ugly color. That would be very helpful. Like, I hate it when it doesn't change the color while I'm clicking on that, so that's a bit of a better color. Let's just put a text to that. No, not into that. I hate putting them into that. I want to have them freely. I am here. Yeah. Of course, doesn't matter. I am God damn it. I am your first button. Something's always fucking up when I'm saying S and T. Put that in here. Of course, the layer is mixed up. So there we go. I know the first looks weird. This is some odd mistake of my font. Let's just use Arial. It still does that. If anyone knows why this is okay, I don't want to save. Please tell me. I've been having this issue for a while now. I've been able to bypass it, but I've not been able to really fix it. Okay, let's just put the button up. This is our button now. I'm your first button. And let's just get any image of the internet. Let's just go to Google and then just go, I'm just going to say picture. Let's see what we got. This is perfect. IKEA, this is from IKEA. Can I drag and drop? I can. Very nice. So that we have two different buttons. Something like that. So this would now be our screen. Actually, no. Fuck that. I want to have this a little differently. I'm going to say, for example, to make this even clearer for you, I have a button here. This is a button. Why are you always doing this? I don't need no stroke. Yeah, and the button can be whatever color, doesn't matter. And then the text here in this, and then we'll call this header. And of course, the text is somewhere where it shouldn't be. There's okay. So this would be a normal layout for a phone. Of course, it looks pretty ugly, but that's not the point. The point is you'd usually have some kind of header, and then you'd have something you can scroll down here, or something you can click on. And this is why I'm doing that to you. This is why I just changed from the IKEA thing, because explaining it like that makes it a lot easier. We would now need to render the buttons. Technically, you wouldn't render anything because you can draw a circle in your XML, but to save drawables. But if you had something like the IKEA image, you'd need to render that. So how are we going to render that? We're going to delete the background, which is not important to us. And then we're going to say, well, you can go away. You can go away. No, I'm not deleting them. I'm just making them invisible. And then I'm going to go layer. Layer? Is it? No, it's image. No, it's image. Then go trim and say everything like this. Okay. And it'll trim that to the exact size I want it to be on. It's a little larger than it should be because the header is larger than that thing, but that's okay for us. Actually, this is pretty good because this right here becomes transparent now. Transparency. But only if we set this to be a PNG, which can save transparency, so JPEG can't. So always save in a PNG. And we're going to go header. Usually what you would do is probably go IMG header activity 1. Because in the end you may have a lot of drawables. Then I'm going to go back, then make this visible, this one invisible. Once again, go trim. I'm going to trim everything. And I missed the header. Image. Trim. I'm going to render this as a JPEG because I have transparencies here. As you know, an image is always rectangular. It cannot be round. So this is what a round image would look like. It's just transparent. I'm going to save that on my desktop as a PNG. Take that as a start, and then it's an image view, but it's not a header. This is a button. Yep, render me. And this is it. We could leave everything the way it is. Oh yeah, we're actually gonna use that. And now we want to have this in our app. And now it's getting a little more, not really complicated, but you see there's a drawables folder that always already contains something that we can. No, I'm not going to delete that. I'm probably going to throw some errors. Actually, I'm going to delete that. That's called a draw. These drawable folder. This is where you would put your content into. The problem is that, as I said, screens have different sizes. Some are bigger, some are less big. And since we want to always use wrap content on our drawables, of course we could do some calculations to only have one drawable folder. That's possible, but I'm doing it that way. I'm going to call that folder drawable minus xxxhdpi. And then the phone knows what it's supposed to do. I'm going to put up another folder calling it drawable minus xxhdpi. And I could go on like drawable xhdpi, then drawable hdpi. But I'm just going to say I'm supporting phones with an XXX and an XX screen, which would cover everything starting from in Samsung S4. So like 3 years back. This should be enough for now. And then I'm gonna do something called batch converting. I'm gonna go with my little program that you're very welcome to use. It's free. Put my 2 buttons that I've rendered into that, and then resize them from XXX HDPI, which is 100%, to 75% of the original image. If you were to use XHDPI, it will be 50%. If you were to use just HDPI, it's 37.5%, and MDPI is 25% of the original image. So you see that these become real tiny, so it's not really necessary to support more than like that. 3 would be good, and 4 would be almost overkill, and 5 would be insane, since they all take up space in your app. So everything's the same, nothing changes, even the name stays the same, which is very important. They have to have the same name, just the percentage goes down. I'm gonna click play, and then I batch converted those, and then I need to put those to the right folder. Those were XHDPI, the biggest one. Then they're in, and then I'm gonna go with this one. These are my little tinier ones. You can see it here. If I'm gonna start that one up, this is the size of that, and that's the size of that. 75% of the original image. These 2 now go into my XHDPI folder, and then we're good. Now we have our drawables in there. We can delete them here because they're now in our resources folder, which you can always, by the way, find if you go and say view the folder, and then they're in here. Yeah, you can already see that these are a little bit. Oh, can you? No, I think they're the same size here, but this is in size 13.3 kilobytes, and this should be a little bigger, and it's 24 kilobytes. Because of the conversion that I did, they don't have the exact same size as they did before, because they compress the PNG a little bit differently, but that doesn't really matter. So we want to display our drawables now. We can basically close that folder because it's no longer important. We just need to know what the name of these drawables are. Let's say instead of our text view, no, actually we're going to start a little differently. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove all of that, all of the contents, and then I'm going to go back here. Why am I going back here? First of all, because I would need to look at the layout, and secondly, because I need to divide my screen now into sensible layouts. And actually, I think I just need 2. I need 2 linear layouts. I need one that wraps this, and then one layout where all this is inside. This really depends. I can't really tell you why I'm not putting this into one layout, but technically, you will find out it's easier. You will find out after you've been doing this for a while how many contents can be in one layout file. For example, since I want to put this layout to center of everything that's below here, I'm going to say this is just a header, and then the center is within this layout. So this makes it easier to put up 2 layouts, one here and one here, then divide them with their weights, and then set the second layout and this layout to put the content into center. This is why I'm putting up 2 layouts. I can't put these into one layout and then say center. That would mean that the header would be right on top of the header would be right here. If I would put, it would look like this. Somewhat like this. And I don't want that, so I want to have 2 different center properties. So I need 2 different linear layouts. And I'm going to do something very easy actually here. I'm going to just take another thing and then measure it, starting up here and going down here, and it says me it tells me in height if I want that to be center. It's 91. And then I'm going to start here again, and the height of that would be 1038. I'm just going to write them down. I think it was 91 and then 1038. And then I can delete those 2 again. And now what I'm going to do, I think you already know, I'm going to put up 2 different linear layouts that are aligned vertically, so one on top of each other. So I'm going to close that, and for both layouts I forgot the closing tag, which you can never forget, otherwise it won't work. Yeah, I don't need a background here, can just be transparent. And the height, I think you all guessed, will be 0 dp, and the weight, oh damn it, it's layout.weight, will be 91. The first one has a height of 91 now, you might say, and this one gets a height of 1038. And if I've done that correctly, the designer now somewhat looks like that, only without the drawables. That's that simple. That's why I left this open. Now we can close that. I'm not even going to save it. And now we have our screen completely designed. And this is how you do it. You do everything you want in Photoshop and then you're just going to return to, and then you're gonna set up, and then you're gonna put up the weights. I hope my thing is still recording, but I think it does. Good. Now that we've done that, it's time to fill the contents. So the first layout, the one on top, open it up, put something in there. I'm just gonna do that because the properties are almost the same, and then a closing tag so that it's wrapped. There we go. I always put up many spaces just to know. This one doesn't need to be opened because it will now be an image view. You can also make this become an image button, but there's differences. An image button has a background which you will then need to remove. It's a bit different. I'm just going to use image views. You can click on everything. You can make linear layouts clickable, image views, text views. It doesn't matter. Everything has a click event to it. The button just, is a bit different, and a button already has some pre-set up properties. You can see that if I want to set up an image button and go back to the designer, you'll see that you get a button, like a literal button. But I don't want that as a thing to start off. So I'm going to say image view, and there will be nothing now because it just doesn't exist yet. It doesn't get a weight. What it does get, however, is in both sizes a wrap content. This is important because we've already set the sizes within the PNG itself. The PNG knows exactly how big it is, so why would I give it a size? I don't even have a size. I don't know. It depends on the screen. It depends on what drawable folders get chosen. All I need to do almost is Android.background and then add drawable and then give it my drawable name, which is imgv underscore button. No, actually that's the header activity 1. And if I've done that correctly and everything is spelled right, it appears here and it looks exactly the way it's supposed to. That's how simple that was. What else you see is that I fucked that up, but the age is still here. It's just white on white, so it's not visible. I could change the background attribute, but I'm not gonna. It doesn't matter. It's good for now. And the same thing of course goes with the second linear layout that we have. Closing tag cannot be forgotten. There you go. It's just another button. It's not the header. This time it's our button. Both do sit already in the center because I set this property here. Go back to the designer. And there you go. Doesn't that look perfect? And it would completely work. This is how big the button is. This is how big the header is. If you click here, you won't click the header because it takes a wrap content, that is the content. And basically this is it. This is basically how you're supposed to do your whole app. We're almost done now. One more thing that you probably already know, but now you're probably wondering, how do I get my button into my activity? And this is actually very easy. Every property, such as a linear layout or an image view or a text view, anything, can get but doesn't have to get an ID. It always starts with at symbol, then the plus, and then the word ID, and then you can give it an ID. My IDs usually look like that: imgv button activity 1. Just to have this to have everything be the same, because you will get you'll lose focus and you'll just completely lose. What am I gonna say? I'm missing the words. You will lose your organization. It needs to be organized, and then everything, the name should always be the same, and so that you know what belongs to what. They get an ID now. It won't change anything in the ID. It won't change anything on the design. It'll still look the same. But since they have an ID, we can now reference them in our main activity. We could of course write a function such as init buttons. Yes, please throw me that function. There you go. And then init them. That will be the way you probably do this. We've already init our layout, so we know we're on the right layout. And what we're going to do basically now is we're going to set up a variable. Both were image views. They're both an image view, so I'm going to set a variable called an image view. Call this img header, just a variable name, and then go find view by ID. It is an image view, and this image view is under resource ID, and then the name of the image view that I just gave it under the ID. So this is our header button. Easy as that. I'm just gonna copy that because I'm very lazy. And img button, but that's not the ID of the button. That would work, but it's just another button that I'm referencing here. And then there should be the button that we just declared in our ID. And if we want to click on that, we're just going to imd header dot click. And I could, write a function, or I'm going to go just delegate and then do whatever, toast.makeText. This some text, toastlinks.short.show, and end of delegate, and that's it. And if we were to start our app now, I don't need to do this. You get this layout, and if you were to click on this button, if I were to click on the header, I ended the header. I gave the header the click event. It'll give me this little message saying some text in it, and then go away. You know what a toast is. Yeah, that is basically how you're doing XML files. This is almost everything you need to know. I'm going to show you one little extra treat. Everything works with what I've just told you now. You can do anything with it except for one little thing. You cannot stack buttons on top of one another. You can't do that. There will always be either left to right or not front to back. It's not what they're going to do front to back. It's the only missing thing that will do left to right or top to bottom. But we could do that. We could put them. Of course, we can put buttons and objects on top of one another. That's something you will eventually come across, and you will have to do this. And the reason how you're going to do this is actually quite simple. You just need to change the attribute linear layout to something called a frame layout. So everything will almost now look the same except for two little things. A frame layout doesn't have an orientation anymore because things just get put wherever they're set to be put to, and doesn't even have a gravity anymore because it's just not linear. This is what happens now. It just gets rendered here. If I were to put my header also inside this frame layout, you'll see this happening. There you go. They are stacked on top of each other into the layout, but just randomly anywhere. How do I get those to be set into the center? And this is actually where my Android.layout gravity becomes important. This is the gravity within the layout. The layout renders it just wherever it wants, but the layout gravity says, no, you're going to be put into the center. And I could do the exact same thing for my little header. And there we go. And that's how we are putting things on top of each other. And maybe you're thinking, no, but I don't want to be. I don't want it to set on the center of it. I wanted to set it sit on the top, so not fully in a corner or fully in the center. I want it to be a little bit off. How would I do that? And this is where actually now you would set a DP value. You could say Android. I think it's padding bottom, for example, and then go 50 DP and then just see if that worked. And what it did is, yeah, it just fucked it up, but that's kind of hard to explain why it did that. I can never memorize which one to take. It should have been margin bottom, I think. No. Okay, I'm actually a little intrigued. Why don't you do what you're supposed to do? Why didn't the padding work? I'm just an idiot. I said gravity center is correct. The padding should have actually worked. Well, why didn't it? Android.padding sets the padding in pixels. The bottom edge. See Android. Okay, I'm just gonna go 80 dp, and it fucked the thing up a little bit. Why are you doing this? It could be because Android.padding, and then what does it want? Does it want something like that? Does it take that as something that is doing? Did it do anything? It didn't look like it did anything. I'm not really sure. To solve that issue right now, there's something you can do, which is actually we're gonna wrap this image view within another linear layout. This may not be the perfect solution to it. I don't really know why this is the case. It just is. This doesn't need to have. Okay, we don't need a layout gravity anymore because this puts it into the center, but this here needs to have a layout gravity center. It doesn't have to have a weight. It just goes with both are supposed to be wrap content. Oh, damn it. Both are now wrap content, and yeah, it just looks the way it did before. And I'm gonna use the padding on the linear layout now. Android dot, in hope of that being Android padding bottom 50 dp, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to use the margin because the linear layout has a margin attribute, and it did work. You're seeing that now. Yeah, that's basically how you're going to push that up. Yeah, don't ask me why this didn't work. What I would usually do now, if I'd say, okay, I want this to be like, you know, just clipping the edge of that, I would find a dp value that kind of resembles that more or less. Yeah, like that. It's kind of clipping the edge on top of that now. Oh yeah, by the way, this is the layout. This is the size of the layout now. It's padding upwards. This is why it didn't work before, because I set the padding in within the layout of the wrap content and I pushed it further up. But that's nice to know that you can do that. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to do this. So what you could do now is, so because I said this is DP, and DP always looks a bit different on every phone. Not much, but a little bit. So if you want to have it looking exactly like that, that is just this little bit of blue. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to zoom in. There's just a little bit of this button left up here. And if you want to have this pixel perfect, what you would do now is you would, this is the last thing I'm going to show you, and then you're done. I would give the layout that has a padding now an ID, Android.id, call this by the way, add plus ID, linlay, whatever, this is a bad name, but let's just go linlay root, and I would reference that here. I'm pretty lazy right now. I'm just gonna go linear layout, call that linlay. Yeah, it's a linear layout, and it is called ID linlay root. And we have a layout now. And what I can do now is linlay dot layout parameters equals new layout linear layout dot layout params and then empty parentheses. This is actually something very important. And to do what I'm doing, you need to set the root layout here. The root layout is the parenting layout. Oh, and as you see that, the parent is a frame layout of this linear layout. So this would not work. I need to say this is actually, no, not a fragment. It's a frame layout, dot layout parent. And then I'm going to be able to set something here, a width and a height. Again, we don't want to have that. So this is again frame layout, dot layout params, dot wrap content, comma, and then the same thing for the width and the height. This is the width and the height. This is what we did in the activity here. On that, we're redoing this because we're overriding them. It'll tell you in height. But by the way, this doesn't work. What I'm doing right now, unfortunately, because I wanted to do something else. So we're gonna put this into a variable. This is always very annoying. Frame layout dot layout params lp equals new frame layout dot lamp, and then we can set these layout params to lp. Why I'm doing this is because now that I have this on a variable, I can go lp dot padding. No, wait, lp dot doesn't have a padding. Oh, it has a pad. The padding is already on the linear layout. Okay, forget what I did here. This is sometimes necessary, but not right here, because as I just realized, the linear layout has a padding assigned to it, padding bottom. And then I can set the padding here. I could set it to 10. Now apparently this is not a function. What is the problem? Oh, this is a get. Sorry. Dot set padding. Set padding, there we go. And then go 10, 10, 10, 10, you know, whatever I want. If I would do it the way I want it here, I just need a padding of a bottom, which is just here. So this is going to be, what did I do, 180 or so, and these are all 0. But again, this would be exactly like here. If I want to make this become the height or width of this the screen, what I would do here is actually go resources, resource.display, resources.displayMetrics and then hide pixels and divide them by something such as 10, because that means now I always have the hide pixels of the phone that is using the app, which could be 1440 for my phone, and then divide them by 10, and then I have a padding of 1444 by 10, which would mean 140, and then see, okay, I need 180, so the division isn't exactly perfect. I can go something like a little more, like 15 or so. But what happens is that on every phone I have that has a 16:9 ratio, which is almost any phone, I get this to be set to the exact same spot. This I only need to do if I really want this to be pixel perfect here. If I'm okay with the way, it could be a little further down, could be a little further up, just a little bit, I'm totally okay using the DPs. This is fine. But to making this pixel perfect, I can use a division. I could divide this with a float. Not here, it won't work here because it won't takes an int, but you can all cast an int and then round up by exactly 1 pixel. So it will be off by 1 pixel maximum. All right, this is everything we'll need to know. Of course, you could set if you want your things to be scrollable, you would need to have this to be a scroll view. Yep, and then a scroll view, of course. A scroll view doesn't have an orientation, which would make things a little bit different, but a little difficult. But that would mean you'd have to set a layout gravity and all. And now this is inside a scroll view, and don't know if we have the scroll view here. No, we don't see it right now. I don't even know where I set the scroll view to. And then it will be scrollable as soon as it gets out of the visible phone display. Okay, my friends, this is everything we need to do to make an app look the same on every screen. Use weights. Always use weights as much as you can, and if you can't, use DP. And if you want to have it pixel perfect, use it in the code. Try to work with wrap contents and match parents. Don't use the fill parent thing. If you're using weights, you have to set either the height or the width to 0 dp depending on what the root has for an orientation, and then render all the drawables starting on XXX HDPI, which is 1440 by 2560 and a 577 density screen. And then render it for so many phones that you want to support. The maximum I'd say is like 3 or 4 maximum. And then put them in the right folder after you've batch converted them to 75%, then 50, then 37.5, and then 25% of the original size. And that's all you need to do. And then your phone will, and then your screen will always look the same. If I would go with a title bar, you'd see that everything still looks the same. It's just the weights have changed a little bit, but since they're divided, the proportions of the screen, they always look the same. It doesn't matter if I cut this a little bit off. If I say I have a header, or if I say no header, the screen will look the same, even though we've changed a bit. If you want to change the theme, you go, I think it's just theme, and then I'm sorry, it's something like, you gotta Google that, it's a string, add style, and then slash, and then I don't know what they call it, holo dot full screen dot something. Since I'm a very nice person, I don't need to save any of that. I'm gonna show you one last thing. If you want to use the most profound looking screen, the most profound or best looking theme in your app, I'd recommend doing the one I'm always using in my app called the Book of Life, which you will hopefully use very soon, since it's almost done, or at least almost the beta works are finished on that. It's a little app that will challenge you to specific things. So this is a theme I would recommend for you to use. This looks very good. The whole no action bar. It's not full screen, so you need to do something in onCreate, which is this window.flex. Why didn't I do exactly that? This line of code, it might be that you have to be using something, I don't know, the window manager or whatever. If you're doing that, it will be in full screen and using the best looking theme you have for your app. By the way, I'm always using that because if you don't do that, you would need to have another design for the portrait app, for the landscape mode, if you want that. And so I'm basically saying this activity can only be in portrait and with this theme and yeah, in full screen. That's it. That's literally everything you need to know about XMLing and using your code right. By the way, I'm doing this to catch phones that have a little larger ratio than 16:9. This is especially for the S8, but you'll get to see that a little later when you're getting to that. Okay, I think we are absolutely done right now. I hoped, yeah, this is my recording. I hope you understood what I was trying to say, and I hope you liked it. I've been talking for more than an hour now, but it's definitely worth it. It's definitely a valuable hour for you. You need to be able to do the layouting right. If the layout's been done well, everything's fine, and you have you don't need to do any layouting in your code. And yeah, by the way, don't use scroll views. Use recycler views, because then you can use a layout from XMLs and not in your code. Plus, recycler views are a lot more modern. I think we're good. I'd like a comment. I'd like whatever, follow something. Yeah. If you stay connected to my account, we will be releasing our Book of Life app soon, and then you may be one of the first people to find that out. So maybe that's something you want to have and you want to. So yeah, just subscribe is I think the right word on YouTube. And yeah, okay. Thank you all, guys, and see you soon. Bye bye.